I am Laurie Ricciardoni, and this is A Taste for All Seasons. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Melaina Balbo, founder and CEO of Bis, a Kentucky-based company inspired by the traditions and connections of her Italian family table. Raised between New York and Italy by entrepreneurial Italian parents, Melaina grew up surrounded by homemade meals, family gatherings, and a deep appreciation for food, for authentic food. Her path, however, took her away from the kitchen. She earned a PhD in Italian literature, taught Italian language and culture, and spent more than 2 decades in publishing before taking a leap of faith and returning to her roots. Inspired by her heritage, Melaina founded Bis with a vision that goes beyond pasta sauce. Through exceptional ingredients, traditional techniques, and a commitment to authenticity, she's helping bring the warmth, connection, and spirit of the Italian table into homes across the country. Today, we're talking about identity, purpose, family traditions, and the courage to start over, and how honoring where we came from can help us build something meaningful for the future. Welcome, Melaina. Thank you so
Hi,
much for
thanks.
coming.
Thank you for having me. This is so special. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, this is lovely. And we have a lot in common, both Italian roots.
Yeah,
I'm not fluent in Italian, so I'm a little jealous about that. But
we can work on that. I can help you with that.
before we dive into your journey, I would just like to share that I had the opportunity to taste your sauces. And what really struck me wasn't just the flavor, but it was how authentic they felt. It reminded me of being around the Sunday table at my grandmother's house with the Sunday sauce. And it had me think that what you created is so much more than food. It's really about connection. And that's what I would like to explore with you today. So, can you take us back to a moment when you realized that the life that you had built in academia no longer really spoke to you? And what gave you the courage to trade that certainty for a dream that's rooted in your family's tradition?
Absolutely. So I had worked as you mentioned for about 20 years, more than 20 years, in publishing. I left graduate school and all I really wanted to do was read and talk about it
Mm,
and explore books and literature and cultures and so after doing that for all those decades, for both those decades, I basically I wanted to I wanted to give people the experience of what it was like to be part of an Italian family. I wanted to that connection that you
yeah.
spoke of. I thought that that people deserved something more than, you know, what was on a shelf,
Mm,
that because and not to, disparage other brands that work hard to
sure.
bring their products to market because there are some very good brands out there, but there's always something missing for me. Um, and to roll back a minute, um, that experience of what you tasted came from my experience in graduate school.
Mm,
Because when I went away, far away from home for the real first time, my parents would send me frozen sauce, and and they would stock my freezer, and they would send it in overnight, and I would live on, that would sustain me. And when I defrosted that sauce and I had my dinner, that's what I
mm,
tasted. It was home, and it was you know, the family table, and it was nostalgia, and that was everything. That was mealtime. So I wanted to try and bring that to people, and I wanted to give them a better option. Um, so that's kind of where that came from. And I wanted it to be more meaningful. My work at the time had sort of felt it was, post COVID, and things had just changed. The whole world had changed.
Yes.
And it felt my work just I had at the time was freelancing, and it felt less meaningful than it
Yeah.
had. And I wanted something more meaningful. And that seems to be this rather seems to be the most meaningful thing I could choose. Uh,
And gosh, how lucky were you, to have your parents overnight or however, frozen
Yeah.
sauces and soups to sustain you. What a beautiful thing. And, my mother tried your sauces as well. And she said, Laurie, this tastes like your grandmother's sauce,
Oh,
which is a
now
big
that is high
compliment.
praise. That is
And
high praise.
it is. And my parents, too, had restaurants in New York back in the day. And my mom has a decent palate. And so, yeah, I just, I wanted her to try it as well. I wanted to share the gift that you have had given me, and it was so delicious. So, Melaina, before there was Beast, before there was academia, before there was publishing, there was a little girl growing up between New York and Italy. And I'd like to start there. As the daughter of Italian food entrepreneurs, what messages about family and work and success were being passed down around the dinner table for you? Do you have a memory of that?
Well, my father worked all the time. I mean, every day. It was, well, let me kind of roll that back. My parents were both immigrants.
Mm,
Although my father's family had an interesting, it's a very interesting path. My father's grandparents immigrated here, so in the 1800s,
from
and Italy,
what
from southern
part?
Italy, southern Italy,
Okay.
Campania.
Okay.
Um, and his father was born in New York. However, his my father's grandmother did was not happy in New York. So they went back to Italy and raised my grandfather in Italy,
Mm,
but he was an American citizen.
mm,
So when he grew up, he came to America and raised raised and this was after he was married. Excuse me. He had children. My father was born in Italy. He had five children in Italy, and when when they grew up, they all came to America after they
mm,
were married. So so my father was born an American citizen in Italy. When he came here, he was just naturalized, which was kind of an amazing thing. So he's Italian, and he's he's very Italian. He's born an Italian citizen and born an American citizen in Italy. So it's really the best of both worlds for him.
yeah.
My mother also born in Italy, 100%. But yeah, we travel to Italy every summer, and um, I was really, it's very typical Italian. I mean, what you would imagine Italian family,
Yeah.
Italian American family to be. We were around the table all day Sunday. My father
Yes.
worked all the time. And every holiday was all family. I think, and I say this all the time, I think I have spent more time in kitchens and dining rooms than in any other room,
Yeah.
than in all other rooms in my homes combined. And the kitchen, it was not just for food, it was also, I mean, it was not just for cooking food or for eating food, it was also for learning, right? It was an activity center. It was the children, cure children, come learn something. Don't be bored. You're not bored. Don't say you're bored. Come on in here. There's always something to do. Come help mom, um
A way to connect the
a
family.
100%. It
Yeah.
was a
Yeah.
100%. It was, nonna, mom, and grandchild, right? Always. It was men playing cards after dinner, women gossiping. It was, whatever. And smoking. There was always
Oh,
smoking going on because it was
I
70s,
remember
right?
that. Yes.
It was the 70s and
Similar.
80s. There was lots of
Yes.
smoking happening. But and this was a beautiful thing in the summer. This is an amazing thing that I loved to watch. Every August, there was all of, my father, his brother, one or two of them, they would go to, I don't know where, some farm on Long Island and buy bushels and bushels of tomatoes. And then
Beautiful.
my mother and a couple of aunts would gather and they would jar the tomatoes.
Mm,
Then there would be some enormous fire made in the and the jars would be, boiled and preserved, and that would be, they would not buy tomatoes. They would
that
have tomatoes
sustained
for the
the
winter.
family throughout the winter. Yeah.
Yeah, and there were tomatoes to be bought, but why would you buy
No,
tomatoes, right? When you can
never.
just dry. And this is a funny thing because really it did not occur to me as a small child that people bought tomato sauce,
Mm,
right? Like it
yeah.
literally didn't occur to me.
Yes.
So, I mean, I know that that sounds bizarre,
Not to me it doesn't, but I
but it
understand.
didn't occur to me. So those are the things I think about, and then also work. Like the restaurant, like the pizzeria restaurant, like it was also a family affair too. It's always a
Yes.
family affair. Like when you're old enough, you kind of go, you help, you. It, and I guess that's sort of also maybe something that is, I don't, maybe stereotypical a little bit, that a family business, an immigrant food business. I don't know,
Lost
but it is,
art.
yeah, in a way, yeah. And it's funny because they didn't encourage us or obligate us to follow in their footsteps or take over any business. Certainly, if we had wanted to, they would have. I probably would have, you know, liked it, or I don't know. I'm sure they
Sure.
would not have. They would not have discouraged us to do that. But there was no obligation. But it was really it was just, I don't know. It
Well,
was
it's
a
in your
really
memory
lovely
bank,
thing.
and it's something I'm sure
Yeah.
that guided you on some level, whether it was consciously or subconsciously, into what you're doing today. You often hear people talk about finding their purpose, which I believe you could have many purposes in life. It doesn't have to be this one dramatic thing. Did you feel like finding something new, or was it remembering something that you always knew that was there, that you would maybe create something at some point in your life?
It's funny you ask that because it did when I it's it it's new because it's an industry that I, you know, obviously
Yeah,
know nothing about. I mean, it's like flying blind, and in terms of learning, the CPG, the consumer product goods industry, particularly for food, is a very complicated
sure.
industry, and it has become, from what I understand, it's changed a lot in the last, decade or two from what it used to be, particularly with the rise of social media and the way that you have to approach your business from a marketing standpoint and all of that. So there's a ton to learn,
Yeah.
and I am the kind of person that needs to learn everything. I need to. So this journey of learning that business for me as a brand new business, as a brand new concept, I am the tortoise in this race. Okay, I go purposefully very slow. However, when it comes to the concept of working with food, it does feel so familiar. Like
Of
that,
course.
that I remember that first time, like those first days that I went into the our rented, shared commercial kitchen, and I just started just experimenting, working on the recipe and trying to, figure out how I was gonna bring this concept to life. And it felt so normal. it felt so natural to be in a commercial kitchen and to be like just
Sure.
it felt, yeah. And I just and I thought, oh well, if if daddy could see me now. And interestingly, my mother, who is in her 80s, she and she lives in New York still. She has comes down to visit me occasionally, and when she comes, the first thing she wants to do is come to the kitchen. And she is the energy of someone, 30 years younger, and
Yeah.
God bless her. And when she comes,
Yes.
that's the first thing she wants to do.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it sounds like you're in your happy place. What was the hardest part of starting over? Because you started this company a little later in life, some would
yeah.
say, right? You had decades of a very successful career beforehand. If anything, what was hard about that? Or was it, I understand, you just said all the things, of course, that you have to learn, but was there something, that familiarity that made it easier? What was the hardest part of it for you?
I think starting over in any new fields, there's a certain amount of um, insecurity,
Yeah.
in general. I mean, and I,
Yes.
I suppose that depends on who you are, but for me,
I would agree
there's
with that.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's some insecurity, and also in this day and age, sometimes things just move so quickly that when you're not moving so quickly, it tends to worry you. But as I said, for me, like I've been moving slowly on purpose because that's just the way that I go with it. Have been learning as I go with this, so I'm okay with that. But
But
but I think the hardest thing has been really learning, or the right getting really the right people to connect with, and learning who to talk
putting a
to,
team together.
yeah, when you really don't know who the team is. So I have tried to really reach out to get the right sort of mentors and experts, and get around me, and advisors. So I feel pretty confident that I've got some good people advising me, and some have led me in the right direction. So I feel
And
good
that's one
about
of, I think, the most important things, to have people around you that share your vision and that share your values. I think that's probably one of the most important things from my perspective. What are your values? I think it's an important question to ask people when you're working, when you're putting a team together and you're going to work together. Because if those values aren't in alignment, there's going to be some conflict there, I think, or it's just not going to be aligned. So I think that life happens in seasons. And one of the themes that runs through your story is that life doesn't unfold in a straight line, given what your
it.
history is, right? Like you never know where you're going to end up. And some seasons are about learning, some are about building, some are about returning to what matters most. If you're if the younger version of yourself sitting in graduate school could see your life today, what would you be surprised by, if
Oh,
anything?
um, probably living in Kentucky.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, why are you living in
probably.
Kentucky? I
Um,
was wondering about that.
yeah, probably living in Kentucky. Um, and not that I love it here. Actually, it's remarkable. I would never have thought that I would live here. Look, the short story, in one word, horses is the short story.
Mm.
Um, I I used to live between Saratoga Springs, New York, and Florida, New York, to following a thoroughbred racing lifestyle for various other reasons. And then I moved here uh during my while I was freelance editing, I also, during my freelance years as an editor, I got a job as well writing for the Blood Horse, which is basically the standard, like the industry journal, if you will, magazine for the thoroughbred racing industry. Um, I know it seems very strange, but
So
so
living in
that is
Kentucky, you
so
didn't
I
see that
moved here.
coming,
I really didn't. I didn't. So I live in Lexington, Kentucky,
which I hear is
and because and
beautiful.
I am, but it is beautiful, and I am a horsewoman. I am a horse person, so that is, and I actually didn't expect it to be a long-term move. It was supposed to be a temporary gig, if you will. Um, so it was just supposed to be like a year sort of job. Um, and so I took this position, um, editing their stallion register and being
Mm.
a bloodstock editor for whatever. So it wasn't supposed to be forever, and um,
And
and
it
so
still
here I
remains
am.
to be seen because
Yeah,
who knows where we're going to end
yeah,
up, right?
yeah, yeah. So
You
so
just don't know.
yeah. I was there for, I was at that job for about a year and a half, and then, temporarily, and then I stayed. So
And was there a
here.
moment, a defining moment that you said, I am going to make my family sauces and make these small batches of delicious ingredients and ship them out to the world? Was there a moment that you had that idea? Because I we all have ideas, but we have to nurture them, plant them, water them. It takes time for them to grow.
It was um it was during it was during our lockdown, because during COVID. And I in a way I am really disappointed that it was during that period, because you know it seems a little cliche at this moment, because but it
Something in my mind, something that I think the world probably needed at the time were your sauces when you're in
it's true.
lockdown.
I know
But
I would have loved to have, just so you know, should another pandemic befall you, I will be there with
there you
frozen
go.
sauces.
So,
However,
Melaine,
yeah,
I wanted to
but it
ask
was
you,
during that time.
okay, what advice would you give someone standing at their own crossroads, wondering, should I do this idea? Do you have any insight, anything
Um,
that you can share with someone that is contemplating a pivot in their life?
um, well, I wouldn't take advice from anyone whose life you don't admire,
Mm,
whose life you wouldn't want,
mm,
you know.
great advice.
No matter how much you like them, if you, the, and and honestly, I would it sounds really simple, but your gut is usually right.
That's not simple at all.
It
To follow that
yeah.
intuition, a lot of
Be
people don't
smart
do
about
that.
it. Be smart about it. Don't be reckless, you know, but do whatever you can to follow your gut in an intelligent, responsible way, if that makes
Beautiful.
sense.
Makes
Yeah.
very much so.
Yeah.
So, when people open a jar of your sauce, what do you hope that they're really experiencing besides the delicious flavor?
Well, I hope that they're not opening a jar, is
Ah,
what I
did I
hope.
say a jar? I did say a
Yeah.
jar. Well, thank you. Good,
When I if
wonderful
I
catch
if,
there.
yeah, if they're
Yes, they are
opening a
not
jar,
jars. So I'm going to ask that question again. When
yeah.
people get your beautiful sauce in the mail, fresh frozen, just made and then put in the freezer, which is really the aside from getting it at the market, right there in that moment is the best way to eat food. What do you hope they're really experiencing besides the delicious flavor?
Um, I hope that they feel catered to, quite
Mm,
frankly,
mm,
because part of the yes, the main goal was to elevate store-bought sauce, right? The main goal was
Yes.
to give consumers raise that bar and give them a more a homemade experience, an Italian family experience. That's the main goal. But beyond that, there are other considerations. The format of the frozen puck, and the sort of, the serving size.
So convenient.
It is, they're more, it's more complicated, not complicated. It's multifaceted. I wanted people to be able to have flexibility and
Mm.
not have to open an enormous
Mm.
jar for themselves. I want people to know that just because they're a small household or a single person or a student, I want them to know that they don't have to waste product, or or be forced to cook an entire box of pasta, just because they don't want to waste their sauce or something. You know what I mean? I want them
That
to
is
feel,
very thoughtful and
you
smart
know,
and practical and brilliant all,
you know,
all at the same time.
yeah, because in this day and age too, I mean, it's not just about um wasting your food. I'm very conscious of food waste because
Yes.
of the more than 40% that goes wasted,
Yeah,
of
it's
food that goes
incredible.
wasted. The majority of it is wasted
Yeah.
from our homes.
Yeah.
So I'm conscious about that, but also it's, people are conscious about portion control. We're
Sure.
conscious about allergies and personal tastes, and again, small households, but they're also conscious about their money. And throwing away food is not just about wasting food, it's also about wasting their money. And
Yeah.
so I think
Yeah.
I think having the portions is really a
So smart.
multi-purpose. um
Yes.
it's a multifunction.
Yes. What I love about your story is that it reminds us that reinvention can come at any time, anytime. It isn't about abandoning who we are, but maybe it's often about returning to the deepest parts of ourselves. And it sounds like you did that in a beautiful way. So thank you for sharing your journey with us, Melaina. For those of you listening, and if today's conversation inspired you and you'd like to experience this for yourself, Melaina has generously offered our listeners a special 20% discount. You simply visit eatbeast.com and use the code seasons20 at checkout to receive that discount on your order. I do want to say a little caveat, wait till the end of the month. She's doing a little bit rebranding. When you're an entrepreneur, there's many hats that you're wearing and things are always evolving. But I really encourage anyone who would like the opportunity to taste something really authentic and practical to do that. Also, you can visit, as I said, her website is eatbees.com. You can visit her on Instagram. It's instagram.com/eat.bees, and on LinkedIn, which is linkedin.com/company/eatbees. Melina, thank you
And
so
bees,
much. Bees.
yeah, it's bees is BIS.
It's
Yes,
yes. Thank you for
yes,
clarifying that because I
yes,
didn't. Thank you. Yes. EATBIS.com. That
yes.
good catch. Before we close, is there anything, any final thought you'd like to leave our listeners with, or anything you'd like to
uh,
share briefly?
I don't really think so, except to say that, in terms of, seasons, and your theme of all seasons, really, and reinvention. Honestly, uh, I feel like, as you said, that it's never too late to reinvent yourself. Honestly, I feel like there are still so many of me, like,
Yeah.
that are yet to that are yet
Yes.
to come out, and there's so many
Yes.
more things that I want to do. That I don't know how many seasons are left in my life. Like, there are a lot. So
Yeah.
so really,
Beautiful.
if you're out there and you're thinking, if you're listening and you're thinking about doing something, just why not? Just give it a try. Just
I remember that Tony Robbins, I believe, the motivational speaker. He said, it's 80% what gets you across the finish line to do whatever it is that we want to do a lot in life is the why. There's got to be the why behind what we're doing. And your why is beautiful and connected to your family and roots. And so blessings to you. And thank you for doing what you do.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me. It's been so nice to talk about our shared connection of family and food and thank you for listening, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed learning a little bit about Beast and about our journey, because we still have a lot to grow. So
all of us.
Thanks for coming along. Thanks for coming along with me.
Yes. Until next time, buon appetito.
Buon appetito. Ciao, ciao.